With Gul Dukat captured by the Federation, his second-in-command, Damar, was promoted to legate, becoming leader of the Cardassian Union. However, with the initial Cardassian plan for the war failing, Damar was given far less operational control than his predecessor, becoming a mere puppet of the Dominion. Meanwhile, as casualties continued to mount, Dr. Julian Bashir of Deep Space Nine started a program to help a group of brilliant, genetically engineered people with social disorders create a think tank that analyzed information about the war so they might make helpful recommendations to Starfleet. At first, the effort proved successful, with the think tank determining that a generous peace proposal sent by the Dominion was actually a tactic so they could hold on to the Cabral system, a necessary source of Ketracel White for their Jem'Hadar army. Yet as the think tank continued to study the war, they came to what they considered was the inescapable conclusion that the Dominion would successfully conquer the Alpha Quadrant. Believing there was no way around this conclusion, Dr. Bashir recommended that the Federation Alliance should surrender in order to save the lives of the billions of people who would die in a prolonged struggle. Outraged by their proposal, the Federation rejected the idea and soon disbanded the think tank after Dr. Bashir discovered the others were planning to outright aid the Dominion and hasten their victory in order to keep casualties to a minimum. As the war continued, the Dominion allied themselves with the Orion Syndicate, working with the criminal organization to plot the assassination of a Klingon ambassador in order to destabilize the Federation Alliance. But the plan was ultimately exposed by Miles O'Brien, a Starfleet officer undercover with the Syndicate. Having lost access to their reinforcements beyond the wormhole, the Dominion created a new generation of Jem'Hadar warriors, bred specifically for combat in the Alpha Quadrant, and were able to maintain this new army by allying with the Sona, who took over production of Ketracel White, finally ending the supply shortage. Slowly, the Dominion expanded their influence, seeking out every available advantage, while continuing to press the attack against the Federation. As a result, they were once again winning the war, and so in 2374, the Dominion conquered Beta Z in under 10 hours, gaining a strategic foothold in the heart of enemy space, from where they might launch attacks against important Federation targets, like Vulcan, Andor, Tellar, and Alpha Centauri. Desperate to stop the Dominion from continuing their advance, Captain Benjamin Sisko put morality and Federation principles aside to work with Elim Garak, a former Cardassian spy living in exile on DS9. Together, they hired a criminal to forge a recording of the Vorta Weyun discussing the invasion of Romulus and presented it to Vreenek, an influential Romulan senator, as evidence that the Dominion were preparing to violate the non-aggression treaty. And while the plan failed and the forgery was discovered, the entire ordeal proved to only be a distraction so that Garak could plant explosives on the Romulan ship and assassinate the senator when he departed. Although Sisko was furious, having been kept in the dark about Garak's true intentions, the former spy explained that the Romulans would soon launch an investigation and amongst the wreckage of the senator's ship would discover the recording they created of a high-level Dominion meeting. At this point, any problem with the recording could be attributed to the explosion, leaving the Romulan government to conclude that Vreenek was killed by the Dominion after discovering their plans to invade the Star Empire. Sisko was then upset further when he learned Garak also killed the criminal who made the forgery in order to cover up their involvement. But in the end, the Cardassian exile was proved correct, with the Romulans declaring war on the Dominion and joining the Federation Alliance. Although he felt guilty about what had occurred, Sisko decided that he could live with what he did. As Garak so eloquently stated, "That's why you came to me, isn't it, Captain? Because you knew I could do those things that you weren't capable of doing. Well, it worked, and you'll get what you wanted, a war between the Romulans and the Dominion. And if your conscience is bothering you, you should soothe it with the knowledge that you may have just saved the entire Alpha Quadrant, and all it cost was the life of one Romulan senator, one criminal, and the self-respect of one Starfleet officer. I don't know about you, but I'd call that a bargain." Quickly, the Romulans proved effective allies, striking 15 bases along the Cardassian border and driving the Dominion off Benzar. It was during these campaigns that a unique young Romulan slave known as Shinzon distinguished himself as a great military leader, defeating the Jem'Hadar in 12 engagements. Shinzon was originally created by the Romulan government as a human clone of Jean-Luc Picard in order to replace the prominent Federation captain. However, the plan was eventually abandoned, and so the clone was discarded and sent to live as a slave. With the Federation Alliance revitalized, they went on the offensive, successfully invading Cardassian space in the First Battle of Chintaka. However, this proved a difficult region to defend, and as the war intensified, heavy fighting along the front lines resulted in battles like the failed assault on Monarch 4, where the Klingons lost 30% of their fleet, or the siege of AR-558, where 147 Federation soldiers were sent to defend a subspace communications array, but due to manpower shortages, there were no reinforcements for 5 months, leaving only 43 of them alive to hold the line. Despite their significant losses, the Alliance successfully capitalized on their momentum, with small, hard-fought victories mounting together, like their capture of the Kalandra system, thanks to the efforts of Elam Garrick, who was now openly aiding the Federation, hoping to help free the Cardassian people from their Gamma Quadrant oppressors. The Dominion then faced further challenges, learning that their leaders had contracted a new morphogenic virus that threatened to destroy the Founders. But what they did not know was that this illness was actually a weapon of war created by Section 31, a rogue intelligence agency working on behalf of the Federation without any oversight or official approval. Do your shopping on Amazon? Then why not check out the CivilizationEx store page, linked in the description box below, where you can browse through recommended fantasy and science fiction books, audiobooks, movies, TV shows, and more. Or else you can always use the Canadian, American, and UK Amazon links, where you support the channel with every purchase at no extra cost to you. So if you do your shopping on Amazon anyway, why not use the link below and help support CivilizationEx? A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Checo the Clever, Magic the Shaman, Simon Toyne, Mystery Knight and Rabble-Rouser, Honier the Dead Raven, and Barian the Soft Bastard Beesbury. If you'd like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and click on the links to see more.